Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Getting High on Leadership series. My name is Rob Sanchez, your host, and we're joined again by Paul Karasik, the author of Getting High on Leadership. We're working our way through the series here and talking about the chapter called Who Are You Helping in part 1. It starts on page 20. So check that out with the ebook you can find in the show notes or track down the book on Amazon. And join us for a conversation here. Paul, welcome, man. Who is being helped? Who are all these leaders helping? And why is it important to ask yourself that question? Let's dive in.
Yeah, this chapter came from Who You're Helping, came from quite a few years of experience with leaders and leadership development. And it comes from good leaders who have a real, I don't know what the word, but a servant mentality, a service mentality. I help my people. These are the type of leaders that get emotionally crushed when they have to fire somebody. Worried for them, like, will they get a good job? But they're almost codependent on and what happens is, this is interesting, Rob. They in an effort to become less full of their ego, they become more egocentric by saying, I'm a servant leader. I serve my people. I give them jobs. I help them develop. I train them. I motivate them. You see what I'm saying? Like almost taking a pride.
Like in actually getting some intrinsic value out of just providing that and helping others to become what they could, or helping them grow and develop, and kind of focusing on their needs and feeling your needs met by just meeting the needs of others, right?
Yeah, well, in both cases, whether we take an egotistical view of it or not, in both cases, the effect is the same, which is you're helping people. But what I'm saying is, in this chapter, and particularly, and it actually came from working with some great leaders, this chapter, Who Are You Helping? Because they would take great pride in how much they considered their people. This kind of giving, but what I'm asking in this, who are we really helping? If I'm doing it right, I'm helping myself. I'm helping myself to become more patient, to be more caring, to be more giving, to be more understanding.
Yeah, so that mindset, that servant leadership mindset, while it does help others and those that you're serving, that's all coming back full circle and helping you to feel that connection more, right? And to be able to tap into that collaboration more and improve your own outlook and perspectives.
100%. Yeah.
Servant leadership in maybe in the business sense is very common and talked about within Scrum and Agile practices. And there's a guy who wrote an essay in 1970. His last name was Greenleaf. I'll have to find the first name. But he mentioned servant leadership, or he's the first one that coined it. And he based it on Journey to the East by Hermann Hesse. because in that story, the servant of the group is the leader. He makes the decisions and kind of helps guide the group across the desert.
Mm.
But I think it can be overlooked at times, but it's a crucial characteristic you want to have within
Absolutely.
your teams, so that everyone is kind of working to help others and trying to, raise the tide for everybody.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky though, because if you take too much ownership of it, then you're ego based again. And
So there's a little bit of a balancing act.
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
Yes.
that it's to give without thought of what's returned. That's what we're talking about, and that's higher consciousness.
Right. Basically, committing to serve others rather than seeking that control or leaning into those more negative characteristics that can be associated with leadership.
Exactly. Exactly. So, in other words, if you're just using it to service as a device to get your own attention, then you're misusing the whole point. You're going the opposite of what we're trying to do here, which is to minimize the ego. Look, let's be clear here. All problems in leadership stem from ego. 100%. They don't stem from lack of intelligence. They don't stem from lack of experience or lack of skills. It's always the same. You have a bad leader, it's because they're immersed in their own self-absorption. And that's it. And so that's why this is tricky. Okay, I am a servant leader. My goal is to give and not be ego-based, but I'm using that to be ego-based. I'm taking pride in the fact that I take care of all, we have profit sharing, or everybody in my group has a voice, or, instead of it just becoming a natural thing that in consciousness, I'm
becomes this inauthentic thing that they're being and saying for the sake of how that makes them look, right?
Exactly.
It's coming from the wrong motives.
Yeah, and it just, for that reason, it has no value.
And there's definitely this whole age of inauthenticity going on in the corporate and company world, where
absolutely
companies will say anything if they think that makes them look different to their target audience or makes them feel more approachable or more caring. Yeah. In this case, with a servant leadership, it's not that you want to do something different than say nice servant leadership type things and want to help others. It's more, you actually need to want to help others. Which is maybe easier said than done too, depending on the situation. But you got to find that whatever that is, that intrinsic pull or that little bit of value or benefit you can see, and start leaning into it more and getting comfortable with that. Sometimes it can be tough to set down roles or to delegate and help others grow and develop if they're stumbling, or if you feel like you could have done it better. I know there's a lot of leaders that are perfectionists as well, which can get in the way of helping. Yeah.
It's the difference between saying something really sincere to somebody that you really mean and giving them, as opposed to giving them a really expensive gift. Those are two really nice things.
Right.
But one is so much more powerful than the other. Even if you gave me a car,
it's a nice gift, but the words and the authenticity or that connection that comes from that appreciation is going to be remembered.
It's going to be remembered. It's going to be felt. It's going to be appreciated. As opposed to these gratuitous kind of and thank you for a great team and blah blah blah. And that's part of a leader's job. Is to give, to recognize people, to give people a chance to develop and all that. Um, that's a
Yes.
big part of it. I mean, great leaders, are determined by the people who follow them, and if they really feel that energy of they care about me. We talked about that in one of the other chapters. How do you make people care? How do you make people care? Because that's the most valuable thing you can bring in any leadership situation is if they care, that solves half your problems. How do you make them care? You got to care.
Right. Bring that same sincerity.
So, yeah, it's not on them. It's on you to care about them, and then they'll care about you.
Yeah, who
And
would have thought to seem heartfelt, you actually have to be heartfelt?
yeah,
It's wild that can escape people at times. But I mean, leaders get their heads down. They get lots of pressure,
yeah,
lots of expectations across anyone that they're leading or anyone that they're working with or against. That I think it can be lost at times. That need for sincerity.
yeah, it is. It is. It is so often. So, who you're helping? You're helping the person you're helping, but you're also helping yourself. You're helping yourself to grow. So get off your high horse about how good you are and how giving you are. This is selfishness. And there was a book written by a guy named Hans Selye many years ago called Stress. I think it was Stress Without Distress. I think that was the name of it. He was the guy who did the first research and kind of, I guess, bringing out the whole idea of stress and how it affects the body and how it, how to reduce stress and just that whole area. He was the first scientist, doctor, researcher, and so on to connect on this. And in his book, he has a great expression. Which I love, and it's called altruistic egotism. And he's saying this is the way to live. And so he puts two words together and creates this altruistic hyphen egotism. What does that mean? Well, altruism, it means giving without any thought of return. So somebody would say, well, he's very altruistic. He's very altruistic. He just, wants to help whatever,
Unselfish.
whoever. Unselfish,
Yeah.
very altruistic. And then we have the word egotism. So we have altruistic egotism. He said, this is the way to live. What's he saying? By taking care of the needs of others, we take care of ourselves. By taking care of the needs of others, we take care of ourselves. And that's the beginning. That's when when we realize that, then we lead from a whole different place. We lead from a place of like, hey, I want to help people, and guess what? A lot of good stuff happens back for me. So it's altruistic, but it's egotism, right?
Right. Right. Because you are pursuing your own self-interest, but if you're actually interested in helping others, you've kind of gone full circle.
Well, they want to help
Connected the
you.
dots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they want to help you. Whatever when you're if you're hiring a person or bring somebody in on a project, the first thing that we want to ask is, what do you need? What's going to make this perfect for you? What's your passion? What do you love to do and what are you really good at? Let's get you doing some of that stuff. And really caring, where's the best person? I mean, how many times have I heard, oh, we created a position for so-and-so. They didn't even have a position for them. They created a position
They
because
found a person and made
they
a role.
found a person,
Yeah.
like he's really good at that. And now we create a position and it's great. It contributes to the company. But I've done it.
Yes.
I've done it in my companies many times. Wow, this person's really good at that. Let's start doing this and they can do that. And then, wow, it's all working out. So,
Yeah, and it really lends itself to like the psychological safety of those employees, of the people you're leading. And I don't recall if I already brought that up in the series. I'll try not to bring it up again. But Google did a project that they called Aristotle, where they looked at all of their different teams to see what makes one of these teams better than the others. Why do we have teams outperforming if they are given the same resources, the same pattern and structures and things like that? And they found the psychological safety, this factor that they identified as psychological safety, was the differentiator. And that was how safe and how accepted did those team members feel on the team? How willing were they to stick their head out and bring up a new solution, or to try to innovate something together that really made the team a success, rather than the amount of money or who they put on the team or what the team members knew? It all boiled down to really that community and the morale on the team itself.
Interesting.
Which I think is starts to show some of the benefits you could have from adopting this mindset, in your position as a leader. Again, whether that be the family unit, the project, the corporate workplace.
Yeah.
Even though Google proved it in their cubicles, I think it still has some real life application.
Definitely. And morale is everything. When people feel, when you look at why people leave their jobs, and it's never for money. It's always the same. Number one is always lack of recognition. That
can often be the last straw, or the only straw.
Well, that's the number one. Money comes out why people leave their jobs down in 3 and 4 and 5 in every study ever done in management. And so
it's going to be more workplace.
That's what we're talking about in this chapter. I mean, to have the right people work around you on the team, to have the right morale and everything else, we have to come in with this help attitude. And like I say, who are you helping? When you're helping other people, you're helping yourself. And the one little caveat here, we'll put a wrap on this chapter, and that's, you can't phone it in, like we've been talking about. That's corporate speak, and that's what infuriates people.
There's no going through the motions here.
No, and corporate speak is not just limited to corporate. It's everywhere. It's when you don't want to be totally transparent and totally honest, you start to, why didn't I get the job? We went in a different direction. That's one of my favorites. We went in a different direction. Oh, okay. Why don't you just say, we don't like you?
Yeah,
we like this other guy better. No, you went into, you hired somebody else. You didn't go in a different direction. You went in the same direction, but with somebody else, and not me. And that, these are all examples of it. And I'm not saying, hey, don't be kind. I'm not saying, to not try to be gentle, to pick our words carefully, to not hurt other people's feelings and so on. But that's a given. But to cloak it in something, to misdirect people, altruistic egotism is the theme for this chapter. And I think coming at it from a sense of giving without thought of return, altruistically, is the best way to give. And it will come back tenfold within the group. When we look to help first, we look to serve first, it all comes back good.
Hey, well put, Paul. Thank you, and thank you guys for watching along here. Check out the chapter, Who Are You Helping? Again, that's page 20 in part 1, and join us again for the next episode as we run through this series. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_The Conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.